in Secret Code of Wives, and let's all consume it as much as we can. Maybe for the last three presentations, I have been trying to answer the question, what if Job was a Ghanaian? That's Job in the Bible. The more I think about it, the more I am inclined to think that Job could indeed have been a Ghanaian. He had the kind of wife who could relate to as a Ghanaian. She was a woman married to a rich and important man, and he was her life, to the extent that whoever touched her man was not spared, even if it was God. And then he had the kind of children who are no different from many of the children of rich men we know in Ghana. Children for whom chilling is a big part of their lives. Children who live big and large on their father's wealth, position, and name. But the thing that convinces me most that Job could indeed be a Ghanaian is the kind of friends he had. He had the kind of friends who remind me of the kind of friends I had some time ago. You see, in the 90s, I was a high flyer. And then overnight, the rug was pulled from underneath me. 1 minute, I was a respected and admired member of my community. The next, I was a disgraced, discredited persona non grata, a pariah. 1 moment, I was surrounded by friends. The next, I was surrounded by accusers and false witnesses. My friends had turned into my accusers and were giving false witnesses against me. But that was it. And that was the experience of Job. He had very, very good friends until he was afflicted. Then his friends turned into his accusers. If you just read the fact that when Job's friends heard of his disaster, they dropped everything to go and be with him, you might think that he had good friends. If you read that they came and sat by him for 7 days and 7 nights, overwhelmed by his situation, you might say, oh, what loyalty to a friend. And then they start to speak, and you wonder, are these really his friends or are they his accusers? In their statements, you get a distinct impression that all the time they were around him, they thought the very worst of him. They were his friends, but they thought him a crook. And the more he protested his innocence, the more they tried to force him to agree with them that he was indeed a crook. The more he said he was innocent, the more they became his prosecutors. Listen to what his first friend, Eliphaz, said, quote, "Consider now, who being innocent has ever perished? Where were the upright ever destroyed? As I have observed, those who plow evil and those who sow trouble reap it. At the breath of God, they perish. At the blast of his anger, they are no more," end of quote. And I'm taking that from Job chapter 4, verses 7 to 9. What Eliphaz was in effect saying to his friend was that you have been overtaken by disaster because you are not innocent nor upright, but you have plowed evil and sowed trouble, and now you are reaping trouble. He was telling his friend that you deserve what you are going through. Eliphaz also said, quote, "I myself have seen a fool taking root, but suddenly his house was cursed. His children are far from safety, crushed in court without a defender," end of quote. And that's in Job chapter 5. Eliphaz was telling Job, his friend, that he, Job, was a fool who took root, but because of his folly, his house was suddenly cursed. And again, that because Job was a fool who took root, his children were far from safety and had been crushed as a consequence without a defender. And the second one, Bildad, said, quote, "How long would you say such things? Your words are a blustering wind. When your children sinned against him, he gave them over to the penalty of their sin," end of quote. You'll find that in Job chapter 8, verses 2 and verse 4. Bildad was irritated that Job would protest his innocence. He accused Job's deceased children of sin and said their death was a penalty for their sin. And when the third friend, Zophar, took his turn, this is what he said of his friend Job. Quote, "Know this, God has even forgotten some of your sin." End of quote. What Zophar is saying to his friend who had just lost his children, lost his wealth and health, is that he should consider himself lucky because God seemed to have forgotten some of his sins. Because if God was to punish him for all his sins, he would have been in a much worse situation than what he was experiencing. You know, there is a wisdom that only comes when you fall into trouble. It is a wisdom that teaches you that you don't really have any friend, that the only friend you can count on is yourself. Whether you have friends or not, you will know. You would only know when you get into real trouble. My mother was a wise and godly woman, and yet, as I remember, there was only one advice she kept drumming into my head from my childhood. She said, and I'm paraphrasing, "The crab lost its head because of too many friends." Every chance she got, she tried to warn me of the danger of having too many friends. And it did not make any sense to me for a long time. I could not see what the danger was in having friends. And as far as I was concerned, the more friends, the better. The wisdom in her advice became clear to me about 30 years down the line. I thought I had friends who loved me. I thought I had friends on whom I could count. These were friends I would do anything for. Then I got fired from my job. And one of my friends went to the company that had just fired me and asked, "Why did it take you so long to fire him? You should have fired him a long time ago." Other friends will come home ostensibly to commiserate with me, and then they will go straight to my former boss and tell him everything I had said, including what I was planning to do to fight to clear my name. It was then that the wisdom in my mother's warning about too many friends became clear to me, but it was too late. There is a statement I came upon some years ago. It said, "With friends like these, who needs an enemy?" Yes, some friends are worse than enemies. And in the case of Job, his friend did so much harm to him in his time of trouble that even God was angry with them. In Job chapter 42, and you'll find it in verses 7 and 8, this is what we read, quote, "After the Lord had said these things to Job, he said to Eliphaz, I am angry with you and your two friends because you have not spoken the truth about me, as my servant Job has. So now take 7 bulls and 7 rams and go to my servant Job and sacrifice a burnt offering for yourselves. My servant Job will pray for you, and I'll accept his prayer and not deal with you according to your folly." End of quote. Now, the idea that Job and his friends and family could easily have been Ghanaians shows that we are all the same, and that over generations and over the centuries, human beings have not really evolved as much as we want to believe. And that, Mama V, is a very sobering thought for me this morning. And that's my presentation for this morning.
Well, thank you, Uncle Ebowai. But the thing about your friends going back to your former boss, that's for real?
Yes. Yes, it is for real.
Wow.
It is for real. One went and said, "Why did it take you people so long? You should have fired him a long time ago." Wow. Because the company had actually fired me with no, just because somebody who was powerful in the company felt threatened by certain applause I was getting from our foreign sponsors. And so decided that, look, get rid of him before he's made to take over. And these friends were the ones who now went and gave all kinds of false witnesses false information, including the fact that I had set up a rival business to the company to make the company even more entrenched in their position that I was a dangerous person who was worth discarding.
Indeed, whether or not you have friends, you only know when you're in trouble.
Wait till you're in trouble, then you will know. So today, when there's no trouble, you think, oh, I'm popular, fine. Oh, my friends, our friends, so they like me. You wait.
Well,
you know what our people say, that it is when you develop a sore on you that you discover the true nature of the housefly.
Well, as always, you give us something to think about, something that carries us through the day and indeed the week. So we're grateful for this one. The danger of
Thank you, and have a
too many
fantastic day.
friends. All right. Have a good one too, Uncle Abel White. And that's Food for Thought, brought to us by Uncle Abel White and Roverman Productions. Be the difference. If you haven't purchased a ticket for the weekend's play, please do so. *713 *5 # and it's going for only 80 Ghana cedis. Make sure you see Uncle Abel White's latest play, The Secret Code of Wives. But right now, let's bring you the Business Minute. It's brought to you by Consolidated Bank Ghana, CBG. We stand with you, and Insia Insurance, the real